Hey guys, how's it going? So a lot of you guys who watched my last video about programming curved corners into windows had some problems getting to work, and that was actually to be expected. That video was less of a tutorial on how to do it and more of an explanation of how it sort of worked conceptually, just to show you guys some cool low-level stuff. I really love that kind of programming, but I wanted to show you guys how you can get it to work on your computer if you really want it running. The interesting thing, the reason why I can't just package it all up into a nice exe and send it over to you guys is because of the way that programming these low-level programs on computers works. See, if you imagine your computer as sort of like an office cubicle, my office is going to be a little bit different than your guys' office. You know, the papers are going to be different places, all the filing cabinets are going to be organized differently, and so if I were to send you over my code and you tried to run it on your computer, it would start going, it would think everything's good, and then would look for a specific dependency in Jake's folder, and then Jake's subfolder, and then it would crap its pants because that doesn't exist on your computer, hopefully. That would be a pretty big coincidence if our file structure was the same. And building solutions in Visual Studio is sort of weird, and it's hard to get all the dependencies wrapped up. So today I wanted to do less of a quick tutorial and more of a complete walkthrough and show myself actually programming it from start to absolute finish, so you guys could follow along and hopefully get it working on your own computer. So let's get started. First thing you're going to do is open up Microsoft Visual Studio. You're gonna have to install this. Now, this isn't Visual Studio Code, this is Visual Studio, which is more Microsoft specific and Windows specific. We're gonna start by just creating a new project. And this type of project is going to be a completely blank project. So search blank, or actually, sorry, no, it's called empty. So we're gonna start a completely empty project. Start from scratch with C++ for Windows. So let's get started with that. And you can call it what you'd like. I'm going to call it Curvier Curves. And for this tutorial, I'm going to set the location to just the farthest back directory in my computer, just C/, so that we can find everything easily and locate all our dependencies in a very easy to locate place. So you can go ahead and create that project. All right, now that everything's all loaded up, the first thing we're going to do is click on our source files, right click, and add a new item. We're just going to call that source.cpp, and that's the default for me. It might be different from you, but go ahead and call that source.cpp. And this is just a regular Visual C++ file. And when you click add, make sure that it's located in your source files. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to post the complete code for this program in a public GitHub library. I'll include the link in the description. And once you've arrived at this library, you're just going to go ahead and copy absolutely everything. This program is really all there is to it. This is the code that draws the curves and does everything. Now you might be wondering, why can't you just add this to your computer, click run, and boom, you've got curved corners? Well, that's because you may notice we have 73 errors. This project, this code, relies on a bunch of different dependencies, mainly the SDL library, and we're going to need to set up your Visual Studio to pull from that. This is really the meat of why your project wasn't working if you tried it from my last tutorial. It's because even if you had this exact code, your computer doesn't have any of the dependencies. It doesn't know where SDL.h is or what SDL_system is. It doesn't know what any of these dependent things are. So we are going to go ahead and instruct Visual Studio on where to look and what to do. The very first thing we want to do is go to the Simple Direct Media Layer download page, and we are going to download the development libraries, this very first one for Windows right here. I mentioned to do this in my last tutorial, but we're going to go ahead and do that again. Now once you've done that, I want you to go ahead and locate this program, this Visual Studio program that we've just created in your drive. Now since I told it to create it right next to my C, it was very easy for me to find. just poke around and you'll be able to find whatever your project name is as a folder and just open it up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag over the development library, the zip file that we just downloaded. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one that cropped up there just because I'd already downloaded it before. Drag it right into this folder, and let's go ahead and unzip it. Now what we have is we have the entire SDL development library extracted into our project. It's all contained in this folder here. Now all we need to do is instruct Visual Studio on where these dependencies are. It still doesn't know that. So let's go back to our project. And the first thing we're going to want to do is go to Project, and then your project properties at the bottom here. And now we will start instructing Visual Studio on where to pull from, where to find all the SDL libraries that it's going to be dependent on. So we're going to need to add a few things. Let's start by going to VC++ Directories. Go to Include Directories here. And I know this might look a little overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff here, but just ignore everything except for what I tell you. So go to Include Directories, hit the arrow, edit that, and that will open up this box here. I know it's a little small. I'm going to try to make it bigger for you guys, but all you're going to need to do is find where you can create a new line. Go ahead and hit that. And now we're going to need to find our development library. So open back up your project folder, go into the folder that we extracted, the development library, keep going in until you find the include folder. Open that up and copy and paste the path to that include folder. And we're just gonna go ahead and paste that right in there. Click OK and apply. Now that was step one. We've just told it where to look for the include folder, but there are a couple more things that we need to do. So now let's go open up the linker hamburger menu, go to input, and go on over to additional dependencies. Once again, click edit just like the last one, and we will have another pop-up. Now we're going to write something a little different. This isn't necessarily a path, but we're going to tell it which files to actually pull from that path. Type in all caps SDL2.lib, then add a semicolon and type in all caps SDL2 lowercase main.lib and another semicolon. And now we've just told it which library files to actually look for. Go ahead and apply that, and we are almost there. The last thing that we need to do is go back to our VC++ directories, find our library directories, and just like before, hit edit on that, and we have, once again, another window. Now, what we're going to look for is go back to your project folder, go back into that SDL folder that we extracted, and you're going to look for lib/64. Now, there is some confusion between 64 and 86. Even if you end up building with 86, you must use the x64 library. It might work for you, but I had some issues when doing it like that. It really shouldn't be that big of a deal though. Go ahead and copy and paste the path to that file, that folder, into the library directories. Hit OK, hit apply, and there we go. Now, we're very close to being done, but the last thing we need to do can get a little bit complicated. So, if you've programmed before, you might know about environment variables. If not, don't worry. I know that sounds like a horrible term, but we're gonna go ahead and play with those a little bit. What you're gonna need to do is search for environment on your PC, and the first thing that should pop up should be edit environment variables for your account. If you're on Windows 10, things might look a little different, but that's totally fine. It shouldn't change that much. Now this looks like a whole mess. All you gotta look for is path. I can see it right there. Go ahead and go to path and hit edit. You could look up a separate tutorial on finding environment variables. My first time it was a little hard, but at the end of the day, as long as you end up in path, we're both on the same page. Go ahead and click New, and you will be able to add what's called a new environment variable. What we're going to put there is the exact same path that we just added. So if you haven't changed what's copied to your clipboard, you can hit Control V, and there it is, the times 64. Go ahead and click OK, OK, and now we're ready to rock and roll. Go ahead and go to Build, Build Solution, and it looks like we have no errors. So let's see what happens when we run it. Go ahead and click Local Windows Debugger, and ta-da! Hopefully, your computer doesn't explode and you might be able to see your beautiful rounded corners. This terminal window will pop up, and I programmed it to keep going until you press any key, and then it will quit the application. Congratulations, you now have rounded corners in Windows 10 or 11. Feel free to play around with the code a little bit. I know that my pixels aren't exactly perfect. You may notice some aliasing or something like that, but I highly encourage you to look through the code, see if you can figure out the best that I've made, and maybe see if you can make it better. If you have any issues with getting your code to work, feel free to comment and I will try to help you out. Thank you to everyone who watched my last video. Hopefully this will make it more clear on how to actually get it working on your computer, and I hope you all have a nice day.